Sunday, April 21, 2024. I sprang awake at 8:30 this morning. I stood up too fast, sat back down, stood up again. I was disoriented. What day was it? I needed coffee to wake up. I went downstairs and made a pot. With a hot, fresh cup in hand, I opened the back door and stepped out onto the patio. The valley was obscured by smoke and the smell was acrid. I again heard sporadic gunfire in the distance and chirping of goldfinches at the little bird bath. It was quite a juxtaposition. I tuned the radio to BBC. The news was hard to believe. The United Nations was completely impotent, as usual, and in total meltdown. China had splashed a small nuke in the Atlantic 75 miles off the coast of France as a warning shot and threat to Europe to stay out. The EU had immediately claimed neutrality. England, having left the EU, sided with the US. So had Poland. Australia sided with the US too, but New Zealand was neutral. Russia was also claiming neutrality. India had thrown its support to America. Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and amazingly, Egypt and Iraq sided with Israel and the United States. All other Middle Eastern countries were silent. Same with all of South America. Iran had used this crisis to attack Israel with missiles. This hadn't worked out too well for the Islamic State, as their entire big ship navy and 5 of their 7 submarines had been destroyed by Israeli submarines, cruise missiles, and air assault. The President of the United States, like Abraham Lincoln before her, had invoked emergency war powers, suspended portions of the Constitution, and arrested some members of the opposing political parties and media for treason. Washington was barely functioning. America, as we knew it, was over. I saw it at the store and heard and smelled it from the valley. I knew most people were ill-prepared for this or anything else. Most people these days were grasshoppers, fiddling and playing around. Fewer and fewer were the ants these days, prepared to one degree or another. The unprepared were sheeple, weak, ignorant, and dependent, the perfect candidates for the new American peasant class. They were self-righteous, self-absorbed, arrogant in their ignorance, and dangerous. I prayed my children were okay. Same for Fred and his family. I went back upstairs and dressed. Then I put the motorcycle key on a lanyard around my neck and attached a safety neck strap to my glasses. I planned this day carefully and prioritized what needed to be done. First, I packed my assembled bug-out gear into each bag, priority A, B, C. I secured one bag to the tank and put the other bags next to the motorcycle. Next, I assembled and packed the other items into 2 watertight camping bags, one for my bedroll and equipment and the other for food and water, and tied them both into the trailer. I was also carrying 2 2-gallon gas cans and 2 quarts of oil. The heaviest cargo was the gasoline. Next, I decided which weapons to take. The 1911 would be in my drop-down holster, the .22 Mini 5-shot Derringer and pepper spray in jacket pockets, knife on belt. The .22 revolver and ammo would be in an over-shoulder range bag. I wouldn't need a lot of ammo. 66 rounds of .45 ACP, 222 LR hollow point, and 50 12-gauge double-aught buck shells. If I had been bugging out with no destination or time frame, I would have to take more ammo. The 12-gauge, sawed off, would be secured pump side up to the tank bag facing forward. I set to work with a hacksaw. It was a shame to ruin this fine old hunting shotgun. It had been a gift from my dad to his dad during the Great Depression in the 1930s. The gun was done. Not pretty, but she'll sing. If there were any need for a firearm, I thought it would be very quick and short. I wasn't Rambo or looking for trouble or to prove something. I didn't think there would be any running gun battles. Just shoot to escape the danger at hand. I would rather not shoot at all, but if I had to, I would. I had a good idea of what would be coming soon, and as such, could only stay here a little while longer. Maybe I should have left already, 3 days ago, like Fred, but instead I lingered. Why? Maybe it was denial. Maybe it was hope. If I left, there was a good chance I would never be back here, never be with Mary again. I would be losing everything I had worked for over the last 40 years since coming to California. I would lose my history, my kids' history. I would have to start over, and I was too old to do that. My mind shouted, leave. My heart whispered, stay. I decided to listen to my mind and leave, but I needed to break it to my heart. So my next project was to fortify the house enough to slow down intruders that may get here before I leave by blocking the ground floor windows. I brought the old shelving 2x4s and doors in from the garage. I put a big X on the windows with duct tape and kept them, the blinds, and drapes closed. I then screwed a 2x4 over each closed and draped window opening about 18 inches above the bottom of the window. I used a second 2x4 18 inches above the first on the most vulnerable windows. I used the 3 recycled doors over the big picture window at the rear of the house. My double front doors were decorative iron, set into an iron frame with a long throw double-cylinder deadbolt, so I wasn't worried about a breach. The back door I left as is, hoping to funnel an intrusion through it where I would be waiting with the AR or shotgun. I wondered if the neighbors, Phil and Gail, the party couple, could hear what I was doing. I didn't think so because the hand tools were quiet. It was 2:30 p.m. and I was hungry. I hadn't eaten all day. Time for a break. My 2 main tasks, pack the bug-out gear and secure the house, were done. I ate the last of the 2 hard-boiled eggs and raided the freezer. It was thawing fast. I took a bag of turkey meatballs and a mac and cheese boil-in bag pouch. I filled a pot with pool water to cook the food. It had turned green, but I'm going to boil it anyway, so why not use it for cooking, then drinking? I realized I was thirsty, so I drank my fill from one of the many remaining containers on the counter. It was so easy to become dehydrated. I took lunch out to the patio. Franklin was already there, waiting. I swear he could sense when I was coming. He started cleaning his beak back and forth on the wrought iron fence. It looked like he was sharpening it. That was his sign he wanted food. He stopped his action and looked at me. Franklin wanted his hand out, but I decided to just talk to, but not feed him right away. Sure enough, he started the cleaning again, stopped and looked at me. Okay, Franklin, I know what you want. Here you go, I said, and tossed some moist kibble onto the patio. He floated down and strutted around the patio, taking each piece. I encouraged him with "Good bird," and tossed out some more. After about 20 pieces, he flew back onto the fence and with a thank you squawk, jumped off and flew away to the nest. I assumed they had little ones by now, and maybe soon they would fledge. Last year, he and his mate brought their 4 kids by for a visit. It had been fun to watch the gawky kids and scolding parents, but I wouldn't be here for this year's Meet the Family event. Next, I installed the solar-powered, motion-activated security lights that I had removed from Alice's and that had been charging, one to cover the front door and the other the back door. I then ran simple fishing line tripwires 6 inches above the ground across the walkways to the front door and backyard. I securely attached them to perimeter alarms made of empty cans and bottles that would fall, the noise alerting me. I spent some time in the afternoon changing the bike's oil, repainting some shiny areas, and duct taping the headlight to make a hood and slit, and completely covering the taillight. Dinner was the last of the freezer I dare eat: cheese ravioli, broccoli with spaghetti sauce. My 2 ice blocks were now 2 gallons of cold drinking water. The most food items I had now were mainly emergency rations. When I leave, I will carry mostly no-cook items, though I have a very small backpack propane stove to make coffee and warm up soup. I reviewed and rechecked all I did today. Could I have done things better? Did I miss anything? What didn't I see or take into account? Had I built myself a death trap? I decided it was a good idea to put the front door key on my neck lanyard along with the motorcycle key. I was relaxing and enjoying the sunset with a glass of Cabernet and yawning when all of a sudden I heard very loud yelling from the street in front of the house. I ran inside and upstairs to the front window that overlooked the street and opened the blinds a crack to see what was going on. I saw Schmidt and his wife carrying 2 filled-up shopping bags as Dick and Fanny, both with bloodied faces, were yelling at and trailing them in the middle of the street. It looked like Dick had a large kitchen knife and demanded Schmidt return his food. Right then, the Schmidts stopped, set down their shopping bags. They both turned to face the others. Schmidt reached into his waistband, drew a pistol, and shot Dick twice in the chest. Dick took 1 step back and dropped like a rag doll. Fanny screamed and lunged toward Schmidt. With a single shotgun blast, Mrs. Schmidt removed Fanny's face, lifted her off her feet, and she crumpled to the street. The Schmidts then turned back, picked up the shopping bags, and walked the rest of the way to their house as if nothing had happened. I recoiled from the window in shock and horror. I stayed inside, no patio or wine time. Tonight would be very dangerous on Red Bluff Lane. I assumed Schmidt might come for me too, now that he had crossed the threshold to kill her. I made a human-like shape out of blankets and towels on the den couch to look like a sleeping person on their side and covered it with another blanket. I used 2 pillows to hide the fact that there was no head. Next, I placed an empty wine bottle and a half-filled glass on the table next to the couch. I hoped it looked like a person, me, who had had too much to drink and was sleeping. I lit the lantern, turned it low, and left it on the kitchen counter so it only illuminated the back door, the den and couch, but not the hall to the garage. The hall with a bathroom where I was waiting with the AR. I had a chair, a bottle of water, and some hard candy. The minutes turned to an hour. The hour turned to 2, then 3. Crash! I heard the cans fall. Was I dozing? Then I heard, damn it! I thought I heard another voice, a female voice, but then, shut up! I thought it was Schmidt and his wife. Whoever it was sounded drunk. That was good for me. I stood up, raised my weapon, took a stance, pointed the AR down the hall to the back door, and clicked off the safety. Then I heard nothing for what seemed like an eternity. The only sounds were the hiss of the lantern and my heart pounding in my ears. All of a sudden, the patio security light came on, and I see them. It is Schmidt and his wife. He was holding the pistol, and she had the shotgun. My heart jumped out of my chest. They moved under the light and became silhouettes outside the back door. I thought I felt my hand shake. Wait, think, relax, breathe. They were just standing there, waiting for a response, testing. Then I heard it, the click of a turning doorknob. Schmidt opened the door a few inches, then stopped. He was just standing there, pistol at the ready, listening. I was sure he could hear my heart beating. The door slowly opened, and there he was, perfectly lit by the lantern. He couldn't see me, not 40 feet in front of him, because of the lantern between us. He took 1 step into the room, his wife right behind him. He stopped for a moment, then pointed the pistol at the couch dummy and fired. The sound of the shot was startling. I firmly squeezed a switch on the AR's foregrip. A red laser tore through the darkness and ended on the center of his chest, 7 inches below his chin. Crack, crack, crack! Schmidt's eyes widened. and he dropped, exposing his wife. She looked shocked and started to bring the shotgun to bear. Crack, crack, crack. Shock turned to disbelief as she looked down at her chest and fell backwards through the open door and onto the concrete patio. I smelled the smoke. My ears were ringing. I just stood there, not moving, ready to fire for what seemed like 5 minutes. I stood still, looked, and listened. The silence was ringing in my ears. I yelled, "Hey!" and louder, "Hey!" Just the lantern's hiss, my ears ringing, and my heartbeat were heard. Death is silence. I wouldn't bring my rifle to rest. I held it on Schmidt as I approached. I kicked the pistol away, then stepped back and turned up the lantern. Schmidt was on his knees, butt on his heels, head down on his chest, just kneeling. I couldn't see his face. Blood slowly flowed down his shirt and onto his thighs. I firmly poked him with the AR's muzzle, and he fell onto his side, then onto his back. Schmidt was dead. I had shot him 3 times center mass, and he was probably dead before he hit the floor. Do I shoot him in the head to be sure? I don't want him jumping up and attacking me. I decided to keep the rifle trained on him and stepped around, not over him. The shotgun was on the floor right behind him. I pushed it hard with my foot, and it slid across the room. Schmidt's wife was lying face up on the patio, her eyes open. That really got to me and raised the hair on the back of my neck. Blood was spreading on her sweatshirt. I shot a quick glance back at her husband, then firmly poked her as well. No response. She was with her husband. I couldn't tell because of the dark red USC sweatshirt, but I probably hit her twice in the chest because she had a wound in her throat. All I heard were crickets, my heart pounding, my ears ringing, a dog barking, and distant gunfire from the valley. The Schmidts were not the only people to die tonight. I grabbed my dirty gardening t-shirt off a patio chair and dropped it onto her face. I went back inside and used a dish towel to cover his. My mind was racing, questioning. Maybe I didn't have to shoot them. Maybe I could have arrested them, tied them up and held them. For who? For how long? Where would I hold them? I didn't have a jail cell. Who would armed guard them? They would have to be fed, watered, and given sanitation. That would use dwindling resources and a chance to escape and maybe overpower and kill the guard. When the lights came back on and the authority restored, what legal jeopardy would I be in? I can plead self-defense, but if I held them prisoner, could I be convicted of kidnapping and false imprisonment? The Schmidts came to kill me and died trying. I won. They lost. That was the reality of it. These other questions and thoughts were academic. The only witness is the hissing lantern. I went back to the patio to breathe. I thought it was around 11 p.m., but felt like 4 a.m. All of a sudden, out of the dark, I heard my name. Bill, Bill, are you okay? It was Phil from next door. Yes, I'm okay. I just shot the Schmidts, I responded. They came to kill me. Can I come in? Don't shoot, Phil asked. Yes, come. Just show me your hands. I'm a little frazzled. Okay, I'm coming over now. I felt relieved that someone was going to be here with me. I looked up at the sky but saw no stars. There was too much smoke from the fires in the valley. Bill, it's Phil. I'm coming around the corner. Don't shoot. Come on, Phil. I won't shoot, I said. Phil emerged slowly from the darkness, hands in the air. It's okay, I said. He came into the light and looked at the bodies. Jesus Christ, Bill, what happened? I told him the story. He nodded and said he thought Schmidt would target either he and Gail or me. They had kept out of sight after watching the Schmidts murder those two this evening. Phil said when he heard the noisemaker, he knew Schmidt was coming for me first and had watched from an upstairs window. He had seen the security light come on, but nothing else. Bill, come home with me. You don't want to stay here tonight. We'll talk. We can clean this up in the morning. I just shook my head, yes.